You thought this guy was your husband.
I did.
What happened?
So, last year, the beginning of last year, I started to hear.
I believe that this gentleman who was a pastor was my husband, and he was not. Let me just go ahead and put that out.
You thought he was, and he wasn't.
What's up, y'all? It's Coach Roberta, your friendly disruptor and soul coach. So in today's disruption,
Thought he was my husband. I believe God. I was in the Word. I was.
So at the beginning of 2023, I heard by the end of 2023, I would be married. And I also started to hear that it was a particular person. It comes to the end of the year, I realized it's not happening. And I start to mentally have like battles to the point of like at the end of December, it got so bad mentally, like the enemy was having his way in my mind to the point of where I was battling depression. I was battling like suicidal thoughts because I was telling God, like, I don't even want to be here anymore because I was just so embarrassed and just so confused. I said, God, why would you tell me to say this on my channel? It didn't come to pass. And so I'm just like struggling.
May was Mental Health Awareness Month, and June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So I hope you find this topic helpful and timely. Whenever you're listening to it, I hope you find it helpful and timely. So let's talk, y'all. Now, I know that there's a campaign to cancel the Dear Future Wifey podcast. This is not that. But two different women, the episodes are from last year, but resurfaced to my attention based on a sermon that I heard this past Sunday. Because about 20 years ago, a similar thing happened to me. I didn't get language for it until I saw the Dear Future Wifey podcast in 2024.
He wasn't.
I thought he was my husband. I believe God. I was in the Word. I was manipulating God's Word to fit my own agenda. I mean, you could not tell me.
I heard this quote by Soren Kierkegaard: life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Many would call that hindsight. I was doing some research this week and was reminded that May and June is Mental Health Awareness Month. And the theme for 2025 is turn awareness into action. So that kind of sealed the deal. It's like, yeah, Roberta, you really do need to talk about this. As usual, the comments were bananas.
So he came to my church. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time, and he did a revival at my church. He was a single man. His wife had passed maybe 2 or 3 years before she had pancreatic cancer. And so I was familiar with him because he was an amazing orator. Like, so I was looking forward to it, you know, but that wasn't on my mind. I mean, I'm just looking forward to, because I'm a lover of the Word. That after the service, he had a little, you know, flirtatiousness in him, and I picked up on it. And so I made the decision to visit his church and visit the church, and we spent.
You lived in Atlanta.
I lived in Atlanta, and
the church was in Charlotte,
Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville.
And a friend of mine, a young lady who attended church with me, she and I went to Nashville to meet this man. I'm as real as it's gonna be. What happened was I sent an email to the assistant, just letting them know we were going to come. I did not get a response. And he made a joke about us playing hooky from our church, and it was just, real small talk. And then that was the end of it. And so we in the parking lot. This is a mega church. So we waiting, cars everywhere. And I am just outdone because I'm like, oh my God, we drove 6 hours for that. Like, what in the world?
To get a handshake?
Yeah. And then right as I'm going on and on, I get a call from a private number. And it was him. And he asked us, he basically asked, I thought you guys were coming next weekend. And as he said, y'all must have checked out of your hotel already. And I said, yes, we have. He said, well, I'd like to catch up with you guys, but I'm going to go to dinner first. And he called. And the first thing he said is, now listen. He was like, I hope y'all didn't come here for
Todd. Just say Todd.
Todd Revelations. Because, you know, he's amazing pastor. And I'm like, I didn't even know what he was talking about. I wasn't familiar with what he meant. And so I'm like, no, we just came, you know, just to check, you know, come to church, trying to play it smooth, not trying to be too overly aggressive or too forthcoming. And so prior to when he called, he was like, this is my address. I said, girl, he invited us to his house now. And so we went. He said he liked to have, you know, he relaxes on Sundays after church. And so I'm like, okay, that's cool. We just came, we just gonna hang out, no problem. We get to the house. He lives in a big, beautiful home. And when he steps out the front door, he has on a shirt and shorts. That was the first thing. I was like, oh God, where the suit at?
Then I hear talk about it on your channel. So I'm like, now you got to be kidding me. What? That don't make no sense. So I'm like, all right, God, all right. Let me be obedient. So I make a video. And I'm like, this is how God revealed my spouse. And he said, I'm getting married in 2023. And so I make three or four videos of just documenting that process. I was wrestling with it. And towards the end of the year, I started to realize this thing ain't happening.
Now, I saw a lot of comments in both of those Dear Future Wifey episodes, either saying that women had similar experiences to what the ladies were saying, or that they knew someone who thought that God had told them that a particular person was their husband. And then contrarily, I saw comments about how delusional the person was. Buckle up, y'all.
Now, I wrote about this in a book, so a lot of this is there, but you getting the exclusive because I never spoke on this. I ain't get the intricate details, but during the game of Truth or Dare, he dared me to kiss him. Mm-hmm. I believe this with all of my heart. And as I began listening to the word, like, you couldn't tell me that God was not directing me there.
Yeah.
And maybe this was in May. In October of that same year, I ended up moving to Nashville. I moved to Nashville,
So a
Tennessee.
few months later, about 6 months later, about 5 months later.
Mm-hmm. I moved there and I joined the church.
Did you tell them you was coming?
No. I was going to my marketing team meetings weekly. And the people started talking about the pastor had a girlfriend. So I'm listening. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Don't they know? You know,
I'm his girlfriend.
But they was talking about it. And I would just sit and listen. I never said anything. I would just listen, and lo and behold, he met a woman and they were engaged within 2 months. And I watched them marry.
Did you go to a wedding?
No.
It wasn't like to the church? It
was open to the church.
But you couldn't go see it?
No, I was in so much pain, I couldn't even stay awake. It was traumatizing. It wasn't traumatizing because of it not being so, but all of the changes and adjustments in my life. Moving from North Carolina to Nashville, I owned my home in North Carolina. At that time, I had released my house into a bankruptcy. When I got to Nashville, just trying to pull all the pieces together, I filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. You know,
one of the most enlightening comments that I read about was limerence. One person wrote, like, this person was experiencing limerence. Now, I had never heard that term before, but that's when I had an aha moment. So I did some research. Now, if you know me, y'all know I'm like the queen of research. You could say a king too, because I'm going to do some research. And here's what brings me to the mental health awareness part. Limerence, by definition, is involuntary. It alters the mental and biological state. Now, here are the cliff notes, because I know some of y'all are saying I would never. But here's what it says. Under the right circumstances, anyone can experience limerence. Some people are more prone to it. It could be triggered by a deficiency of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which is a happy hormone. So a person may notice that when they are in proximity or thinking about this limerent object, they get excited. And so people like feeling happy and excited. So that may be what causes them to start fixating. Now, the good news is limerence usually naturally phases. There's 3 stages to it. It starts with infatuation. Now, I think you're lying if you say that you have never in your life been infatuated by anyone. Because again, it kind of starts just like that, a infatuation. Again, it may evolve into some of the descriptions like you heard the 2 ladies on Dear Future Wifey, or even my situation. Then there's the second stage is crystallization, where the person starts being clear, like this ideal realization that I thought about this person is not even true. It's just something, that I've been thinking. So it's kind of like a phase where you may ignore red flags, either about you yourself, the relationship, or just the fact that the person is not even really checking for you. So that becomes crystallized. And then the third stage is deterioration, which means that it diminishes and fades away. But again, now one lady, hers was extreme, because she talked about she moved to another state, and then she started working at the church and all other things. And let me just say this, because I am not reducing this down to only limerence. I'm not even trying to diagnose them. I'm just saying that it really provoked me, and I feel like it's important for me, especially since this is Mental Health Awareness Month, to bring this up, because again, the comments on those posts and other ones that I've seen, and especially Christian women, a lot of them get into a situation where they say, God told me this person was my husband, and they stay parked there. I think there's even something called spirit spouses and all the things. So I'm sure there's some spiritual warfare that goes on there too. But again, I wanted to bring up the point that it could be a neurotransmitters, and with serotonin and dopamine. And then also it talks about how another cause can be some other factors that make people more susceptible to limerence, include insecure attachment styles. If a person has an avoidant or anxious attachment styles, which means that they didn't form a secure bond with a caregiver as a child for whatever reason, they may be more susceptible. And as a result, if they don't have a secure attachment with themselves, then this can happen. Also, trauma. If a person experienced trauma, they may have difficulty being by and with themselves. And the preoccupation with a limerent object can be a way of them avoiding thinking about other or more painful feelings. Low self-esteem. Now, that's what most people, kind of in the comments, or most people assume, that it's due to self-esteem, and definitely I would agree, because sometimes it feels safer to be in a relationship deep down that will end in rejection. If you believe you are unworthy or unlovable, the impossible one-sidedness of a limerent relationship can be comforting. It means that you will never truly be vulnerable in that case. And then this one, because we all be parked here. Social media. I'm going to say that again. Social media can make you more prone to limerence because with modern technology, it can be addictive. It allows us to access a person's history, see their pictures, know what they are doing every day. It makes it easy to feel connected to a person that you may not even know. This is what psychologist Dr. Duke says. It makes you feel connected to a person that you don't even know. And the same goes for online dating. It's easier than ever to project your hopes and dreams on a complete stranger. And I'm going to just back up here about this. It makes us feel connected to people we don't even really know. Even if you don't have a limerence for a person we see on social media where perfect strangers make comments on other people's celebrities, etc., that they don't even know. And we think we do just because we see their Instagram page. Just a little bunny trail there. Here's another thing that Duke notes. Limerence is usually one-sided, and that's because the primary feeling powering the attachment is uncertainty, specifically uncertainty about whether the LO reciprocates the feelings. In fact, Duke says you don't necessarily have to care about someone to form a limerent bond with them. There was also something in the article that says, although rare, this can even happen with platonic friendships. And I know, some people have had friendships that kind of felt stalkerish, or you have a friend that feels too clingy. That can be a limerence. So here's some takeaways that I really want us to think about as I'm thinking about friendly disruption and soul coaching. Is one, let's not judge people or ourselves too quickly if this happens. Again, limerence is involuntary, so it's not like people sign up for this. Now there are some active strategies that we can employ to recover from the limerence process. Now don't just lean there, because again, everyone has had a crush. It's when the crush turns into infatuation and then starts preoccupying your thoughts, your habits, and then decisions that you start making that becomes very problematic. So here are a couple of things that will help accelerate recovery from limerence. One, no contact. That means no texting, no calling, block their phone number, and stop following them on social media. Another one is shifting focus, redirecting aspects of your life to a hobby, some social activities, self-improvement for sure, right? And so self-improvement. And again, here's a bunny trail when I was looking up addictive behaviors, because most of the time when we think of addictions, and limerence, from what I understand, is not in, I think they call it the DSM-5, which is like, this the book which identifies like actual diagnoses and stuff. So it's not like substance abuse. They did talk about it having an experience like an addictive type behavior with some withdrawals and some obsessive compulsive behaviors. But other people have other addictive behaviors like retail therapy, gambling, streaming. All those things, when they become addictive and repetitive and obsessive in nature, again, those are things that can fall into our mental health and wellness. So I want to say this because a lot of times people be coming down on women about certain things, and it's like there's other things that people have addictive behaviors, but we kind of looking again, like gambling, streaming, you sitting on the game all day. But anyway, that was a bunny trail. I digress. So again, shifting focus is another way to help recover from limerence. Challenging idealization, recognizing and addressing unrealistic idealization of the limerent object is crucial to moving forward, because sometimes we may have one thing stuck in our head. So maybe it was that magnetic chemistry that happened, and you keep looping over and over and over on that one thing and ignore all the other things or whatever. So challenge idealizations. Another one is addressing underlying issues, exploring potential underlying issues that causes limerence. So for example, if you do have low self-esteem, if there are some attachment issues, those things can be beneficial for long-term emotional well-being and reducing the susceptibility for future episodes. Now that was the one and only time that happened to me, and yeah, I don't plan on that happening again. But again, just getting language for it was an aha moment, because me especially, I'll say in my spirituality, and I don't want to say religiosity, but again, I was like, how did I get here? Because I wasn't even checking for people. I had already made a decision, so it wasn't something that I signed up for, and I was like, how is this happening to me? And then lastly, therapy, seeking professional guidance if you think that it's just really gotten out of hand. It is because for some people, and they didn't mention stalking, but this is just my way of thinking of it, it leads into other stuff if you don't get a handle on it. Like I said, limerence usually naturally fades, but anytime we don't handle our stuff or try to manage behaviors that we know are not healthy, things become problematic. Again, May and June are mental health awareness months. The theme was go beyond awareness to action. So my action for this month was actively telling my story, as cringy as it was for me to do so. And again, I'm going to close with this quote by Kierkegaard: life can only be explained backwards, but it must be lived forward. Until next time, beloveds, I wish that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. This is Coach Roberta, your friendly disruptor and soul coach.